Dr. Pepper and Friends, where grit, grace, and wholehearted living come together. And now, here's Dr. Pepper.
Hey friends, and welcome back to Dr. Pepper and Friends, where grit and grace come together for wholehearted living. And today we are talking about raising boys, a topic that's both near and dear to my heart, but also very essential, I think, for our culture and where culture is today. So if you've ever wondered why your sons seem to have like two speeds, full throttle and asleep, or why he can build a Lego fortress but can't find his shoes, this episode is for you. We are diving into what's really going on in the minds and the hearts and the hormones of boys. So why is it that boys respond to structure? Why is it that sometimes they push away when it seems that they're actually craving connection? And how do both moms and dads play a role in ushering a boy into the world of men? I like to say that it's bestowing manhood in many ways. So today we are joined by a good friend of mine. He's an old friend, been around for a long time. He and I have been around for a long time together. His name is Michael Sparks. Mike was with FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, for about 30 years. And then since probably 2012 or so, he has been the men's ministry pastor at Fellowship Bible Church. He has raised two sons of his own. He leads men. All of the reasons why I wanted him to join us on this podcast. So I know that you'll give him a warm welcome and you will be blessed from the things that he has to say. And we're just going to talk a little bit about how to raise emotionally healthy and confident young men in a world that often confuses strength with silence and sensitivity with weakness. And we're going to try to clear some of that up. So if you have a son or you have a grandson, or even if you work with young men, grab a cup of coffee and just kind of lean into this. This is going to be an honest, hopeful, and maybe a little challenging conversation, hopefully in all the right ways. So let's get started. All right. So I'm with my old friend now, Mike Sparks, and we just have the opportunity to serve together. And Mike is our men's pastor at Fellowship Bible Church, and you've been here in this area. How long have you been here in West Tennessee?
Well, I came in 1983. I've been in Jackson really since, or Brownsville since 81-ish, and but started with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Was my first real job here. I coached basketball for Tennessee Academy over in Brownsville because they just needed a coach, and I was raising money for FCA. Coached there for a year, and then started FCA in 83. And so since that time was FCA 30 years, and Fellowship since 2012. I don't even know how long that's been, so it's pretty. But,
well, I wanted Mike to be on this show because, first of all, he's a leader of men, and he's our men's pastor at church. But like me, he's raised two boys. And do you have any grandsons?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 out of 10.
Okay, yeah. Well, I've got 3 grandsons, and only grandsons, and we only had boys, and all of our dogs have been boys, and I think even our cars are boys. I joke about that, but that's all I'm used to. Yeah. And we'll just kind of put this disclaimer out there too. I mean, we would both say, even though we're talking about this today, we want to educate a little bit, and we want to encourage, but that doesn't mean that we've cornered the market on being dads or raising boys, because we're still dads and we still have boys, and at the end of the day, we're a couple of guys trying to figure out how to be parents of young men who are the age that they are, and we've never done that before.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, I want to just emphasize we have feet of clay. And we're fallen men in a fallen world. So, there's a lot of things I'd like to have a do-over.
Yeah.
At the same time, I say the things I learned greatest from my mistakes, and looking back, it produces a lifestyle of repentance. So,
yeah. It's kind of funny. I came across an old home movie this week, and it was one of my boys' favorite moments from all of their childhood. It was a Christmas, and I'd done a scavenger hunt with them for their last Christmas present, and they thought they had gotten out of their Christmas presents. I'd save the best for last. And they had to find these clues, and it was their best moment that they remember from one of their best moments from childhood. And yet, in this video, as I was watching it, I could hear the irritation in my voice. And I'm just like, man, I wish that wasn't there, But we're human beings, and but I'm glad they remembered it as one of their favorite moments. So you just never know as your kids get older and you hear them talk to each other about their raising and their growing up, just kind of what they may remember, and it's kind of cool to hear that.
Forgetfulness is really a gift.
It is. Yeah, and the videotape don't lie.
I'm glad we didn't have social media as much back then, because they could probably recorded a lot of mistakes. Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about boys, because there's we just did a show on bringing up girls, and that's why I had somebody besides me do that one, because I don't know much about that. I've coached some girls at one time or another, but I'm a little more familiar with boys. But there's so many differences, and I think one of those differences is just their maturation speed. Boys just develop more slowly. Their brains develop more slowly. This is why insurance companies don't let boys get drops on their rates until they're 25.
That makes sense.
Yeah, their brain, the prefrontal cortex of their brain, which is that part that just makes all of those decisions and impulse control and all of that, is just slow to develop. It's slower to develop than girls. Yeah. So that's why when you look at a puberty age boy, or maybe a little older, and sometimes a 50-year-old boy, you wonder, why did he not think about that?
Yeah. Well, they act before they think oftentimes, and I think too they tend to be greater risk takers, and it's probably because of that lack of development. And girls think things through sometimes, and we don't. And I know that's even true for me. I'm more prone to think I can do it than to think I can't. So
and we tend to think on one side of our brain at a time, and girls have more interconnectivity between their hemispheres in their brain. So for guys, when we have a task in front of us, sometimes that's all that we're thinking about. We're thinking about that task. We're not paying attention to how we speak to people. We're not, and it's not an excuse, okay? It's just kind of the way that we're wired. And then once we're done with that task and we switch over on the other side of our brain, and then we can do relationship stuff. But girls can do both at the same time, and they're often confused as to why we can't.
Yeah, and I think sometimes too it's that peer pressure that plays into it, that we're not thinking, we're just looking at the obstacle, and we tend to be overcomers and without thinking about the consequences, especially when it comes to how it might impact others.
Yeah. So there are two brain chemicals that tend to drive boys and why they do some of the things that they do more so than girls. I know you can guess one of them.
Dopamine.
Okay, and that was the one I didn't think you would guess. The other one's testosterone. Okay. Right? Yeah. So dopamine and testosterone. So dopamine is that, when I get something that's pleasurable, it hits that euphoria in my brain, and it's a win, and that's where a lot of our competition comes from. Is just being able to compete and to have a short-term gratification in either being able to excel in a particular play, in a sport, or catch a fish, or whatever it may be. That dopamine kind of keeps us coming back.
It's a pathway that drives, and only reason I knew that, Pepper, I just read I'm going through some curriculum that I'm offering to our men in regard to the effects of pornography and the dopamine effect of that, and what drives men back to those places. And so I cheated on it a little bit. I probably wouldn't have guessed it when it comes
that's
to
good.
men's other things.
Yeah.
So
no, that's good. And the other one's testosterone. And I can't tell you over the years how many times I've had a mom or a dad bring their 12 or 13-year-old boy in here and say, all of a sudden he's just gotten really aggressive with his sister, or he's gotten really a lot more talking back, and I'm wondering if he just wants to take me on. I've heard him say that. And usually in this thing I've learned is I've asked, has he had a major growth spurt lately? And often when they've had that growth spurt, they get, and especially when it's at puberty and they get, acne and all that kind of thing. That tells me there's been a pretty big testosterone dump that's taken place.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So whether it's aggression or it's the risk taking that kind of goes with just that testosterone dump that comes along, that's a part of the way that boys are wired.
Yeah, and I saw that in my boys, and sometimes challenging their mother at times when it, like, where'd that come from? That hadn't been the norm.
Yeah.
So
one of the solutions to that, I think, is structure. And think about how you've seen boys respond well to structure and men respond well to structure, whether that's through sports or through military service or through fraternities, whatever it may be. What have you seen there?
Well, I think the value of having a father in their lives that has put boundaries in their own lives and out of bound lines. We tend to, I think I'm probably more of a basketball player than anything, or former, has been. But you constantly, as a point guard, the coach says, stay in the middle of the floor, stay in the middle of the floor. But the tendency is want to, go to the sideline. And so, I think structure helps us know and helps them know that if I play close to the out of bounds line, I'm going to step out of bounds. If I can stay closer to the center of the court, I'm going to be in safer. So the same thing goes spiritually. We have a tendency to play toward the boundaries in every aspect of becoming a man. And so that would probably be the illustration that I have that comes to mind.
Yeah. And I think the thing I've seen with a lot of guys is that we kind of crave pushing past those boundaries, but we crave the structure at the same time. And I've heard a lot of guys, that didn't like how their parents were governing the household. They'd say things like, man, I can't wait till I get out of the house. I'm going to be on my own. Nobody's going to tell me what to do. And then they go and join the military. And that's just a good evidence of how we crave structure. We really, structure is our friend, and it's something that we really like, and we kind of know what to do. We like knowing what the rules are sometimes.
I got a really funny story going back to my oldest son, years and years ago, when he was just a young kid, a toddler for that matter, and I was memorizing a lot of scripture at that time. One of the verses that was on my mind was John 14:21. It says, he who has my commands and obeys them, he's the one who loves me. But he who loves me will also be loved by my Father, and I too will love him and show myself to him. And where that verse really kind of came off the pages to me was one morning I was watching a ball game, and my son wanted to go out on the patio. We had a little patio right outside of a bay window. And he said, Dad, I want to go outside. And I said, fine, just stay on the patio where I can see you. And the first thing he did was went to the edge of the patio and looked at me, put one foot on the ground and the other foot on the patio and looked at me. And I was thinking, oh, really? And I thought, well, I told him I was going to have consequences. So I went out and I told him, there's consequences to that behavior. You got to come back in. But I told him, I said, when you learn to stay on the patio, then you might see more freedom. And ultimately, he got the whole backyard, and then it was the hedge around the backyard. And then he got to a point where he showed his obedience. I showed more of myself to him. It was just that whole godly principle of, when you show me that you can obey, I'll show you more of myself in trust. And so that principle really played out in his life because he got it. He go, okay, if I can just stay obedient to my dad in the backyard, I might get the whole neighborhood next.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. And as much as we're talking about, guys and how maybe we want to push limits and all of those kinds of things, we are also highly relational and highly emotional. And I have a lot of guys in here that will sometimes say, well, I'm not emotional. And I'm like, no, you're just as emotional as she is, if not more. But the way that you wind up expressing it is just going to be different, right? But we have, as men, we have a very strong need for connection, and we have a strong need for bonding. And I'd say if there's anything that you facilitate well, just in your role in ministry, is you help men bond to the Lord, but you also help them bond to each other. What have been some keys? What do you see guys? How do you see them needing that? What seems to free them up to be able to find some of those connections?
Well, primarily, and I think you would agree with this, is trust. If I feel like that I can trust someone with information, I'm more prone to be transparent in that. But that didn't happen in a short period of time. And we find in what we call our great men groups, the groups that thrive are usually been together for about 3 years.
Yeah.
And then they get really into the nitty gritty. Now, that's also requires consistency. So it's not a guy come and go. It's like I'm actually I'm wanting to do life with these men. So I'm going to be honest and transparent about what's happening in my life. And when that happens, you start seeing emotions come out that maybe were disguised in other arenas. And there's real life that happens. There's real healing that happens. And sometimes they deter or avoid a major train wreck because of the honesty and transparency. So,
yeah, and some guys crave that. They know they want that, and that's why they seek that out. But other guys kind of stumble into it. Yeah. I think one of the things that I've seen with guys that helps us to be a little more vulnerable and to open up a little bit is movement, being able to do stuff together.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go to church and you look at the men and the women talking to each other, you'll see often women staring directly at each other and looking eye to eye, squared off at each other, talking. But you'll often see men kind of at an angle, and they're standing away from each other, and that doesn't mean that they're not talking about important stuff.
Yeah.
It just means they're to go kind of mano a mano is a little bit more threatening.
Yeah.
So I think I've seen guys open up. I mean, when I've worked with boys in counseling, I'll keep a football or a couple of baseball gloves and a baseball, and we'll go out and throw a little bit, and their lips will start flapping. I mean, you get them moving and doing something. All of a sudden, whether they realize it or not, there's a bond that starts to form, and they begin to trust a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think some of those fishing pool kind of events that we even have at church often involves food. Food's a good bonding activity, but whether it's that or riding mountain bikes together or doing any number of things, those are the things that sometimes men stumble into connection without realizing how much they needed it.
Sure. Yeah, men engage in activity. And like you said, women face to face, men tend to be communicators side by side. I think that probably wasn't anything that I invented, obviously, but I saw that was what drove me in relationships. And so my brother spent a lot of time with me and teaching me different things, hunting and fishing and sports, because he was very engaged in my life. As ministry, the guy that discipled me, same thing, very much engaged in taking me camping, backpacking. And so, the things that we do now, particularly at Fellowship Bible Church in men's ministry, is, wild adventures. It just we call them great man adventures. And as you just noted, the mountain bike trips and the sporting clays, and and we're constantly just trying to come up with more ways for men to first engage in an activity to build at least a common denominator between them that leads into deeper conversation.
Yeah. And I think one thing, if you haven't heard this in what we're saying already, hear this. Guys are just wired differently. We get focused on tasks, and that sets the stage, builds some trust for relationships. We gravitate towards structure, but we have the same emotions that anybody else does. And I think one thing in raising children, provide them with structure, provide them with movement, but also teach them some emotional vocabulary as they're growing up, so they'll have some words. Because a lot of times we'll point to boys and they'll say, okay, well, they're just acting out. Well, what is it they're acting out? They're acting out emotions that they don't have the language to express.
Yeah.
And the earlier they can understand some of that, the better. So that takes me to kind of the last part. Let's think a little bit about the role of a mom, the role of a dad. What role they play, some of maybe the integral things that are necessary for a mom and a dad in bestowing manhood to a young boy as he's growing up. Any thoughts there? Role of mom or dad?
Well, I can only probably speak specifically to a dad being one. I think modeling, being able to have conversations around emotion, like acknowledging that makes me sad, that makes me happy, that hurts my feelings. You don't hear guys saying that very much. And again, if I were to wind back in time, I probably would have used more language like that makes me sad, because most of the time I would probably say that makes me mad.
Yeah.
So I think that appeals to their emotion, and the connection probably would make, I sense that as you know, my grandson just lost his father about a year ago, and I've tried to really exercise that with him and saying, I'm sad too, and allowing him space to maybe communicate something, not to pull it out, but to draw it out. And it's been interesting because I'm one of the males that he will talk to the loss of his dad with. But I think it's set up by me inviting him into that space, as opposed to me just ignoring it, thinking it's going to go away, or somebody else more professional is going to be able to help.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that only dads can do is invite boys into the world of men. And a part of the world of men is emotional vocabulary, but it's other things too.
Sure.
And that's ideally your dad, but it's not only dads. It can be grandfathers, and it can be uncles, and it can be mentors, it can be coaches. So many stories from men that I've heard that their dad may not have been around, but there was another mentor that stepped in and was able to invite them into the world of men. Which, incidentally, how old is your grandson?
He's 7.
7 now. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I've got one that's just turning 3 today, as a matter of fact. And 2 key developmental times to be invited into the world of men. One is between 18 and 24 months of age, and the other one is at puberty. Both of those are really key developmental times that moms need to be able to let go a little bit, and dads really need to move in. And it's that invitation into manhood is as much caught as it is taught. But that's kind of, as you were saying, that comes through some of that modeling and presence of just being in their life.
Yeah. My dad had a struggle with alcohol during the key development times for me, and I was fortunate to have a brother and an uncle that stepped in and became sort of that for me. And going forward, my relationship with my dad was healed primarily because I became a believer, and I moved toward him. But you're right, we desperately need, and even as a dad, I was inviting other men into the life of my boys, and asking them to point out anything that doesn't look godly as a father, and speak to that, and speak, giving them the privilege of speaking into my boys' lives. And fortunately they did, and then my boys have other men now that they look up to because of the investment that was put into them at that season of their life.
Yeah, and moms, I know some of you are listening today too. So you also play a huge role in the development of boys and their becoming a complete human being. And a part of that is just kind of the secure base of attachment that they have from. Really, you're the first caregiver. Moms are the first caregiver of boys, and to know how and when to push down on the gas with that attachment and when to let off the gas with that attachment, because there are going to be things that as a young man or a little boy is invited into the world of men, there's going to be some things that you're going to want to cling to, that instead of clinging, there may be those times that you got to let go.
Right, and the importance of inviting other men into the arena, even from a mom's perspective. It might be their father, the mother's father. It may be a brother, maybe a close friend that that your son would be drawn to. Is because sometimes guys are just sitting back. I'd like to do it, and you don't ever know if they have margin or not, but you'll never know if you don't ask. So. And I appreciate that about my daughter with Colin, that she has been intentional, because she knows there's a load that comes with that, especially when I have 10 grandchildren. She's, made it possible for others to come in and invest in Colin's life. So. Yeah.
And I've just believed the more godly men that can be a part of my son's lives, the better. I know I did some boneheaded things, but one of the things that I'm pretty grateful for that I did at one point when my oldest turned 16, he had a birthday party, and I prearranged this, but I won't get into the whole story. But bottom line is I had a limo pick him up. And there was a scavenger hunt, and I gave the limo driver the list of where they were supposed to go because he was on the clock. But I wanted the kids to figure it out, so he had all of his friends in this limo. But I had them go to his youth pastor's house, to his soccer coach's house, to one of his best friends' dad's house, to I think his head of school. Was on the list. So they went all of these places, and these guys, I kind of already stacked the deck and had them prepared for it, but they got to speak blessing and encouragement and affirmation and a prayer over him at each of those stops.
Wow.
So that was cool. That was a lot of fun. So it's the point being, just moms can do that too.
Sure.
They can line those men up to speak blessing and affirmation and challenge and all the things that go along with that. All right. Well, Mike, thank you so much for being with us, and we hope that this is encouraging, and I think you can bear witness with what I'm about to say. If you are in the thick of it and you're listening to this, and that may be why you're listening to this, is because you're in the thick of it. If at any point you've got a boy or a teenage son, and you're wondering if you're either going to kill him or he's going to kill you, you're in good company. We've all been there, and that's not an uncommon place. But raising boys is kind of like raising sequoias. You fertilize and you water, and you fertilize and you water. And if you just keep doing that, they grow up to be pretty strong, mixed with a lot of grace and favor from the Lord. So.
Yes, mistakes will happen, but God's the overcomer. And sometimes the greatest thing you can say is, I was wrong, will you forgive me?
Yeah. We never get too old or we're never too young for that, are we?
That's right.
All right. Well, Mike Sparks, thank you very much. Appreciate your ministry, your family, and your friendship. So
absolutely, Pepper.
We'll do it again soon.
Sounds good.
What a rich conversation. Thank you, Michael Sparks, for being our friend and for hanging out with us in this episode of Dr. Pepper and Friends. And, you know, I think one of the things that's kind of a takeaway in all of that is just the fact that boys need structure, they need boundaries, so they can run free on the inside. And sometimes that helps them to open up and do all the things that they do, but also that boys need both mom and dad. Or at least trusted men or mentors and women in his circle to help teach him that courage and kindness are not opposites. So if this episode stirred something in you, maybe it's time to check in with your own parenting story, the one that you're writing every single day. You can find out more about this topic and others on our other Dr. Pepper and Friends episodes in this YouTube channel, and it's also available at wherever you get your podcasts. And I hope you'll check out some of the other episodes because we're trying to cover a pretty wide range of topics. Just to kind of give you a heads up of where we're going in the next few weeks, we're going to talk about grief. Going into the holidays. We're going to talk about what happens to you when you die. We're going to talk to you about where is God when it hurts. We're going to talk about how kids grieve differently. We're going to talk about some practical things that you can do and some steps that you can take during the holidays that will not only make it survivable, but maybe bring honor to those that you grieve in this process. So I hope you'll stay tuned and tune in and maybe even subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that. So thank you again so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time on Dr. Pepper and Friends.